Thank you very much for joining us. We are grateful to have you here with us today. Today's session is an informational overview of the Atlantic City Food Security Pilot Grants Program. The goal of this program is very specific, which the presenters will go into detail about. But if you aren't directly eligible, please keep in mind some of your partners that may be eligible and make sure to check out the many other NJEDA programs. Now, to get us started with the content of today's presentation, I will shift things over to the Director of Food Security, Rusha Gadre. Rusha?
Thank you, Caitlin. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for a webinar that talks about and will walk everyone through the application, which is, the critical component of applying for these grants. But before we jump into the application walkthrough, I kind of just wanted to give an overview of who we are and what we do. Most of you may have joined us at the Atlantic City in-person event we had last week. So some of the slides will be very similar to what you saw there. But for folks who couldn't join us, this captures an overview of EDA and the program itself. This is the agenda for today. We'll already gone through some of the introductions and welcome. We'll go over the program overview for Atlantic City Food Security Grants and then an in-depth walkthrough of the application. We will leave some time for Q&A. If we don't get to answer all your questions, we will be writing down the questions and we'll be sure to answer them either in our FAQs or via email. This is the small but mighty team at NJEDA who focuses on food security. Our team is led by Tara Colton, who's the Chief Economic Security Officer. Riley Edwards is our Senior Advisor for Economic Security. I'm Rucha Gadre, and I'm joined by my colleague Brian Todd, who will be describing the application process later in this presentation. A little bit about NJEDA. As you all know, that we are the state's Economic Development Authority, and we are focused on making sure that we create communities that are self-resilient and reliant. We create new jobs, and in a way, we create a much fairer and stronger economy, not just for some, but all residents of New Jersey. Now, one would question, why the Economic Development Authority when it comes to food security? Most certainly, this is a very new approach that's been taken by an Economic Development Authority in the state of New Jersey, and I would say very confidently, even across the country. The Economic Development Authority has a long history of, supporting businesses of all sizes and also investing in New Jersey with the aim of building, again, a stronger, fairer New Jersey economy. We have a broad range of portfolio, or as I call it, tools in our toolkit that helps the economic development and community development at the same time. And these tools include tax credits to incentivize job creation, capital investments. We invest in and support and strengthen New Jersey communities. We have financial resources both for small businesses, including those that were impacted by COVID-19 pandemic, and also one as it relates more specifically to food security is creating and supporting the development and operation of new supermarkets or existing supermarkets so that healthy food options are available for and within our food desert communities. So how did we come across or start our work in the food security field? It started when COVID pandemic hit. Right, through Governor Phil Murphy, we were able to access more than $300 million to strengthen food security for the state of New Jersey. Our very first initiative was Sustain and Serve New Jersey, which ended, the third phase of the program ended last year in August. Since then, we've also launched our Food Security Planning Grant, where we leveraged $1.5 million through the Economic Recovery Act, asking applicants to propose a plan to use a distressed asset, and how would that distressed asset improve food access and food security within that food desert community. We also have the Food Desert Relief Act, where most of the money sits under in the form of tax credits, which is $240 million over 6 years in the form of tax credits to develop new approaches to alleviate food insecurity. We have an active program right now called as the Food Retail Innovation and Delivery Grant, or FRIDGE, which is a 1.25 million grant program to assist New Jersey food retailers to purchase a refrigerated locker, so almost like a refrigerator or a freezer, and put those lockers in a food desert community, which becomes an access point for residents of the community to order groceries and pick them up from that centralized location. We've also worked with our sister agency, Commission on Science, Innovation and Technology, and we had a grant that we launched for food, agriculture, and research development. So those were mostly early stage research-based projects that were developing those at a very concept level to bringing them to market. And then the most important program for which we are here today is the Atlantic City Food Security Grants Pilot Program, which is a $5.25 million initiative aimed to fund projects that can positively impact food security for the residents of Atlantic City, so that they're able to access fresh, affordable, and healthy foods. So the focus of this program is basically it came from the data that we had collected during our designation of food desert communities. And so we know that in January of 2021, when we were able to access the Food Desert Relief Act, our first approach was to designate those 50 food desert communities where we could invest this money. Atlantic City Ventnor FDC ranks second highest in all the food desert communities in New Jersey, and this indicates that there is extreme need in that community. We know more than 41,000 people reside in Atlantic City, Ventnor FDC, which has been without a full-service supermarket since 2006, which indicates that the need is, which furthermore supports the need for us to invest in food security grants for Atlantic City. We will be, as you all know, we've been talking about this program. It's coming up, but we're just kind of tying the last loose ends and making sure that the application is accessible and user-friendly for all entities. And so we will be announcing the launch of the application date very soon. But you can all access the application on our website, now or even after this webinar is completed. So what is the sole purpose of or main focus of the Atlantic City Food Security Pilot Grant Program? The Food Security Grant Program is a pilot approach for Atlantic City, where we will be able to award grants ranging between $50,000 to $500,000 for projects that focus on strengthening food access and food security for all residents in Atlantic City. The two goals that we hope to achieve through this program is to improve the Atlantic City residents' ability to access fresh, affordable, healthy food, and at the same time expand the reach and capacity of entities enabling food access and food security in Atlantic City. So why this program, right? Developing and opening new supermarket is going to take a very long time. It won't happen overnight. It won't happen in a quarter. So in the meantime, we need to make sure that there is some strong way of accessing in a sustainable, maybe even a scalable way of accessing healthy, nutritious food across the city of Atlantic City. This program aims to pilot a variety of initiatives that could address the challenges of all food desert communities, and we are starting this approach first with Atlantic City. This is the first kind of program that we are launching at EDA, where we are not prescriptive about anything except for one thing, that you cannot use the funds towards purchasing a land or acquiring a building. That's it. Anything and everything is fair game as long as it clearly states how it will strengthen food security and improve food access for the city of Atlantic City. Some of the examples are listed here, but please keep in mind that these are not the only examples that we will be funding. But in addition to what we thought to put on this slide, there can be many more ideas that an entity would want to propose. Some examples are establishing a mobile market, purchasing a cold storage or other equipment to ensure food safety and hence improve food access. Technical assistance to help residents use nutrition benefits. So it could be something around securing a point of sale device. It could be improving your Wi-Fi if you're a mobile market, or a farmer's market while you're out and about in the city. Increasing access to local produce through farmers market, or also purchasing a delivery van to deliver that fresh access to produce amongst residents of Atlantic City. You can also be working with restaurants to purchase meals and distribute those meals at no cost to the residents. And then obviously expanding free food provision services and accelerating existing programs or existing plans to achieve food security and improve food access. Again, as I said, many more options. These are just a few that we've captured on this slide here. Please keep in mind, acquisition of a property or purchasing land is not an allowable program, a plan or a solution that you can propose through this grant. Here's a quick overview of how the grant program is designed. It is a $5.25 million total funding available for Atlantic City Food Security Grants pilot program. The money comes from American Rescue Plan, state and local fiscal recovery funds, and other general funds. So this is a combination of federal and state funds. So there will be very strict guidelines on how we track funding and how we report funding. Grants will be made between $50,000 and $500,000. So any project that you may propose is $40,000 is not eligible. The minimum that you have to request is $50,000. The maximum you request is $500,000. Project must very clearly state how it will strengthen food access and food security in Atlantic City. Again, the funding can cover construction, equipment, installation, salary, rent, operation, all of those things that usually don't get covered through grants. But please keep in mind, purchase of land or building is not an eligible expense under this grant. If you are doing construction or purchasing equipment, installing, then you will have to follow the prevailing wage guidelines and requirements that we will be talking to you a little bit more in detail when we start going through the slides that are focused on the application. The disbursement for this grant will happen in 3 tranches. The first one upon execution of the grant agreement, which is when both EDA and the applicant who is approved for this grant signs the agreement, the first 50% of the amount will be disbursed. And the next 25% happens at the midterm or mid-year of the program. So let's say you have a 1-year-long grant program that you've proposed and you're awarded funds for this. And let's say it's for $100,000, $50,000 will be given to you at the time of grant execution. The remaining 25% will be disbursed at 6 months of the term, and the last 25 will be upon completion and review of the program or the project that has been funded. We will require grantees to submit reports. So there will be a midterm report that's going to be required, and a final report that will be required from all grantees during the course of this program. Project must be completed within 2 years of the execution of the grant agreement or September 30th, 2026, whichever is earlier. EDA will provide an extension of 6 months, maybe 2 extensions of 6 months, but that will be awarded on case-by-case basis and at the discretion of the authority. For this program, there is again, eligibility applies to most of our programs, and for the Atlantic City program, our eligibility is very open. It is for any nonprofit can apply, any for-profit can apply, government entities can apply, but there are some criteria. One of them being that they have to be in existence for at least 2 years at the time of application. And some examples of for-profits or small businesses could be restaurants, corner stores, supermarkets. They must be currently serving in any manner residents of Atlantic City and Ventnor FDC. They should demonstrate existing programming or services related to food access and or food security, including but not limited to, again, food distribution, nutrition education, local agriculture, food retail, so on and so forth. Applicants are not subject to suspension or debarment in accordance with regulations. Some of the other eligibility considerations that we want you to focus on are that The applicants may propose any project. Again, there is no restriction on what you propose, but the project must focus on improving food access and food security in the city of Atlantic City. Funding can be used to create new initiatives or strengthen the existing ones that you're working on. All applicants will be required to provide a tax clearance certificate, and applicants must be in good standing with New Jersey Department of Labor and Workforce Development, as well as Department of Environmental Protection. And these are some standard requirements across all EDA programs. We also have a contractor requirement for programs that are going to, or projects that are going to consider proposing construction or purchasing equipment and installing them. And so at the time of the application and throughout the project, contractors working on the project must be a NJEDA Public Works registered contractor. So even if you have a contractor that you worked with previously, but if that contractor is not registered with the New Jersey Department of Labor and Public Works, you cannot use that contractor. You will have to look at the list of the approved contractors and select one from that list for your project. And the prevailing wage and affirmative action requirements will apply to any construction installation projects. Contractors must agree to pay prevailing wage, which is set by county and the construction trade. Contractors must abide by affirmative action requirements if they have 4 or more total employees. Subcontractors must also be public work registered contractors, and contractors and their subcontractors must register at sam.gov and are subject to a department check. Verification form also required for any professional services. And we can, if you are considering a construction project, we can certainly provide you any information or clarification that you may have around this requirement. The application process is bucketed in this format. It will be a 6-week-long application window. All applications are going to be available online. There will not be an application fee. All applications will be reviewed once the application window closes. This is not a first-come, first-served program. It is a competitively scored program. We have the sample application available for you, along with the FAQs that might help you understand the program a little bit more in depth. Again, if you have questions, you can always email us. We'll do our best to answer those questions for you. The application is scored out of 100 points. Minimum score of 50 is required to be considered for the grant, and the scoring criteria is available on our website, and it is also available in the application itself. So it says which question is for how many points and what are we looking for. What are we asking each applicant to provide as it relates to the question. Funding is allocated on first. The application that scores the highest will be the first to receive the funding, and then we'll move down the scores and award amounts accordingly. They must submit work plan. So your application requires you, for us to consider you as an eligible or complete application, we require these following documents to be submitted with your application: a work plan, a timeline, a budget, and a budget narrative with the application. Entities considering applying for this grant will be provided information about their organization, and their proposed projects, including but not limited to. We want to understand how your proposed plan is going to strengthen, address the ongoing challenges of food security, insecurity, and strengthen food security for the city of Atlantic City. We want to get a very clear description of the organization's capacity to undertake this kind of work. If you have partners or stakeholders that you are working with, and you think that they are going to help you, move the work forward seamlessly, please list them in your application. We also want to know details on how community engagement will be included as part of your project, not just at the time of application, but throughout the implementation phase as well. And we also will be scoring your budget and budget narrative to understand, how what funding level is requested, and is that funding level going to support the work that you plan to do. Again, the sample application for this grant program is now available on our website. I would recommend that you print it out so you see the questions that are in the application. So it's easier for you to fill out the narrative portion, as well as collect the documents that are required as an attachment, or supporting documents that you will be required to submit with the application. Here's the scoring criteria. And this is very important because this is a competitive application. It is scored out of 100 points with a minimum requirement of 50. The highest points fall in the project description or statement of work. So this is where you'll demonstrate the project's potential impact on food security and food access in Atlantic City. The work plan will help us understand and get a more detailed view on the comprehensive view on what the plan looks like and how are you going to achieve it over the duration that you've proposed in your plan. Organizational capacity, are you equipped to successfully complete the proposed plan? Have you done similar work in the past? What experience you might have, so on and so forth. Community engagement, must demonstrate track record of serving Atlantic City residents and engaging them in learning the ongoing challenges they face and how you've pivoted your programs in the past, or what approach are you proposing now that will help address some of the challenges that they face. And last but not least, the budget and budget narrative for the grant will be scored on level of detail, connection to the project goals, clarity and justification or explanation provided on how each line item relates to the success of the project. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Brian Todd, our Senior Advisor for Food Desert Relief Act, and he'll walk us through the application process.
Thank you, Richa, and welcome everyone. I'm excited to have so many people involved in our application and want to know more about the program. So here is the sample application coming up. It will be available soon on our website for everyone to fill out. I also suggest that you note when this presentation and the deck that accompanies it become available on our website in the next day or so. You might want to relate to that moving forward so you can go back and check what we said as you go through the application. To start out the application, this will be the first page you will come to. And basically, we want to make sure you read through exactly the program description. If you do need help with translating in another language, please check the next box on the next page. And also, when you open up the application in the lower right-hand corner, you'll see a save button. Suggest as you go through pages, click the save button. That will keep your application in progress. It does not mean you submitted it, but that way you can go back. If you do not hit the save button, you'll have to go back and start all over. So please click it as you move ahead. Next page. And here's the language access page I was just talking to. Just to provide a yes or no response if you do need assistance with the language. And if you do have additional questions on that front, you can just email languagehelp@njeda.gov. You'll be asked for the primary point of contact on this. This will be the information that we would reach out to you, or we will have available if there are any questions. Please ensure that it's the most correct email and the primary point of contact for this person. And it's basically just a form there. And again, make sure you click the save button as you move along. And we will also need to know if the person filling out the application is not an authorized representative. Perhaps it's someone in the office or even a consultant that's doing it. So you'll be asked to fill out this information if you are not the authorized representative, and then you would fill this in, who is the authorized representative. Similarly, with the chief executive or owner or equivalent, who the the firm that's applying. If you're filling out the application and you're not the chief executive or the director or whatever title that might be, you'll be asked to fill out this information, so we have it as well. Similarly with consultants, in some cases, consultants do fill out these applications. It's not required that you have a consultant, but if you do have one and would like to enter that information here, please do so. Once you click yes, when you see that page appear, this page will come up asking you for all of that information. If the primary point of contact isn't the media contact you'd like, please enter a media contact here. Perhaps you like to designate someone in the company on that front. Again, this will come up as a question, do you have a media contact? If you click yes, this page will pop up to fill in the information. Now we get into a little bit more of the nitty-gritty. We'll be collecting the information about the registered business that is applying. You'll be asked for, as Richard noted earlier, you'll have to note your date established. It has to be greater than 2 years. It'll be the entity, the type of formation. You'll also be required to upload any entity formation documents they have, be they corporate documents or nonprofit documents, your federal identification number, your New Jersey tax identification number, your NAICS code, and the all-important New Jersey tax clearance certificate. Also, if you're involved in any religious activities or religiously affiliated, you'll be asked the question, do you have any religious affiliation? And if you click yes, another form will come up filling in religious activity questions. Just to note, New Jersey state law prohibits certain cannabis licensees and certified personal use cannabis handlers, employers from receiving or continuing to receive most financial awards. So if you're involved here, click yes or no. And it could be you may not be eligible for the programs. Next page. In this section, we'd just like to know more about the diversity of your organization. The answers have no impact on your eligibility for assistance, but are used for tracking purposes only. For each of the questions, you have the option to prefer not to answer can be selected, or if the question is simply not applicable, you can just check that. Now we get into, as Richard noted, the project description, which is up to 30 points of the scoring. We want to you to demonstrate, put in a description demonstrating a more detailed, comprehensive, feasible plan for your project. The more detailed and feasibility related, the higher the score. For any questions that don't apply through here for your project, just write not applicable in it. The description that we'd like you to provide is 500 words or less. And it should include your understanding of Atlantic City's food access and food security challenges, as well as how your project will help improve food access and food security in Atlantic City. We'd like to know how many people you expect your project will impact. We know this is an estimate. There's no way of knowing that for sure. And then also in 200 words or less, if your project it will support recipients of federal or state nutrition programs such as SNAP or WIC, or any additional subpopulations such as seniors, immigrant families, explain that as well. And of course, if that doesn't apply, just put not applicable in the corresponding box. Next slide. Oh, here we are. And then which areas of Atlantic City will you propose your project will serve? These are 10 of the distinct areas in the city. You could also choose all of the above or other, where you'd be asked to describe what that area is. Please note that only projects serving the Ventnor portion of the Atlantic City Ventnor Food Desert Community will be available for funding. The entire community of Ventnor is not part of the food desert. And then in 200 words or less, describe how the proposed project could potentially be sustained once the NJEDA grant ends. So that would be in 2 years. And then in 200 words or less, please describe how your project could potentially be scaled or adapted to improve food access or food security needs in other food desert communities around New Jersey. And if there are any special considerations for this, this is a pilot program, so we're looking to gather all of this information so we can help improve any of our future programs moving forward. Community engagement is up to 20 points. In this section, you're asked to provide your community engagement efforts, any experience you have serving New Atlantic City residents, soliciting and responding feedback from those, and mitigating any previous challenges. Again, like the others, if there are any questions that are just not applicable, just write that it's not applicable in the box. And then we're looking for another 200 words on your history of serving Atlantic City and any planned outreach engagement activities to connect with residents with your proposed projects, including who you might be collaborating with on those projects. And then, I'm sorry, if you could go back 1 second. In 200 words or less, also describe your organization's approach and experience with soliciting feedback and providing services that promote social and economic equity. And more on community engagement. Being that food security work comes with various challenges, we'd like you to describe, again, in 200 words or less, an obstacle that your organization has faced in the past and how you overcame it. And also, will your organization collaborate with any potential partners? If yes, the following table, or the table that's to the right here, will appear for you to provide more details, such as the name of the organization, the point of contact, an email, what that collaborating partner's role would be in the project, and a letter of support. If you have multiple collaborators, you can just keep adding collaborators to this page and put in this same information for each one. Looking at the scope of work, which will be up to 30 points of the application, we would like a work plan that you can upload. And well, actually, I'm sorry, first you would have to download we have a download for a work plan that you can fill out and then upload it to our site. Again, the work plan template, there'll be a link in there, and there will also be one in the, and when you go back and look at this separately, we'll need the anticipated project date and the anticipated end date. Again, the start date and end date should be no less than 2 years apart. And definitely ending by September 30th, 2026, whichever is earlier. Next, we'll want you to download a budget template that you will fill out, as well as a budget narrative template, so you can explain issues in the budget that perhaps you cannot do in a number manner. Once you download those, then you'll be required to upload those in these spots here. We then will ask, how much do you estimate the total project will cost? And please include the complete project in your estimate, including any costs that will be funded through other sources. If there are other sources, you will be asked to list the sources and the amounts and how that will cover the remainder of the project. And then you'll be asked how much you're requesting for the grant funding. And again, that has to be between $50,000 and $500,000. And then does your proposed plan include any of the following: a land acquisition, property purchase, I'm sorry. Both of those are not eligible for this program. Also, if you have installation of equipment or construction or innovation, beware that you will be responsible to take part in prevailing wage, and that the work must be performed by a New Jersey Department of Labor and Workforce Public Work registered contractor, as Rucha noted earlier. And then getting into more about the Public Works registered contractors. Any contractor used for construction costs more than $1,999 must be registered, and they must also abide by New Jersey's prevailing wage and affirmative action. Any quotes submitted by contractors that are not registered at the time of application will not be eligible. So if you are using a contractor and you're not sure, find out if they are, and make sure you're using one that is registered. Similarly, for professional services, architectures, engineers, construction management, you must provide verification of proof of New Jersey business registration for those people, and there will be a place on the form where you can add that and upload that information. And then these are the specific forms for contractor and professional services. Once you download each of these forms, then you'll fill it out and then upload it as a PDF again. This is the requirement. I will not read it all here, but you certainly should. The prevailing wage and affirmative action requirements. This is acknowledging that you understand that if you apply, you are subject to these requirements. There are 2 boxes to check, one for prevailing wage and one for that it must be in conjunction with a public works certified contractor. We also want to make sure that there's no duplication of benefits, that you're not receiving grants from another organization or NJEDA perhaps that could duplicate on this side. So we will be asking if you have applied for any. If you have, we will be asking details on those, such as the funding source, the process where you are, whether it's been approved, when you applied, and what the purpose of the funds. You'll also be asked to sign this, to designate this box if you say that you certify that there is no duplication of benefits. Once you provide all these details, you'll need to certify that there is no benefits up via that form. We also will have a legal questionnaire noting that there is no involvement in any activities in Russia or Belarus, and also by the legal questionnaire by the applicant's general counsel or legal officer is recommended. For a corporation, a principal or executive or vice president would have to fill it out. For a partnership or a general partner, sole proprietorship, the proprietor, and for a government, the contact person, business administrator, manager, and for others that don't fit into those categories, the person with any legal responsibility. If you are not the authorized representative, you'll be prompted to upload the certification page, which you'll be required to download and then upload and sign a series of acknowledgements listed above. If you are an authorized representative, you'll be prompted to fill out these pages. Here you'll be asked to upload the certifications. If the applicant is not an authorized representative, they are listed here. You'll see there are 2 boxes for the legal questionnaire and the certification of involvement in non-involvement in Russia and Belarus. Then there is the legal questionnaire that we will be collecting, asking for, this will only be visible if the individual filling out the application is the authorized representative. So you will go through and answer these questions. And this is more on the Belarus and Russia certification of non-involvement, where you'll be asked to certify, and if any of that is applicable, uploading that information. And now you will be certifying that the application, that the individual filling out the application is the authorized representative, and that the information you're submitting is not fraudulent in any way, and more legalese on exactly that you understand the application in its entirety. Then you will be asked to sign your electronic signature. Fortunately, as Rucha mentioned, there is no fee for this program, so that is usually a page we have here, but fortunately we do not for EDA and for the applicants. And then you will submit application. You will submit the application. This is where you submit the application. As you go through the application and click those save buttons after the pages you enter the information, it is not submitted until you click submit at this point. And now we will take any questions, if any have come up. We'll go through the Q&A. Also, on the next page, which we'll bring up momentarily, there's a list of other resources you can look at on our website to answer any questions that you may have or to look for more information about the program. So please use the Q&A on the right-hand side to, if you do have any questions. Okay, we'll go into the first one. Why does religious activities play a role if an institution or own property isn't involved? It's a requirement of NJEDA that we gather this information for any religiously affiliated organization. The next question, what areas in Ventnor, New Jersey qualify? You can look on our website is a map where you can plug in the address. If you go to that site, we will certainly send the link out separately that anyone can look at, where you could plug in the address to see if it is in the food desert. It does vary, so that's the way I suggested it's done, rather than try to guess. So use our map to find out that information. If a charitable food organization applied to partner with DoorDash to provide home delivery, would DoorDash be considered a professional service for application purposes, or is DoorDash a partner organization, or both? Perhaps Rucha, you want to comment on this?
Sure. So if the applicant lists DoorDash as a partnering organization, then it wouldn't be a professional service. And in the presentation, when we mentioned professional services, that was more specifically related to construction projects, such as working with an architect, plumber, electrician, so on and so forth. To answer this specific question, if DoorDash is listed as a partner with an applicant organization, then they wouldn't be considered as professional services.
Okay, thank you. Next question is, getting benefits for purchase of land or developing a building considered duplication of benefits with funds from your program used elsewhere? That one, we may have to dig a little deeper, Rucha, unless you...
We'll respond to that question in our FAQs.
Oh, you did? Okay, very good, thank you. And Rich is doing that. May the same organization make 2 applications to the program? This is the point. And I'll let Rich answer this as well. Since
yes, an entity can submit 2 applications. Please note that it is a competitive grant program. Application scoring the highest will be the one to receive an award. Once we've gone through all the applications that are eligible for the program and have received funding, if we have additional funding remaining, we will go back and either open up the application again or go back and give a second grant to the next qualifying. If the same entity who qualified but didn't score high enough on their second application, after all eligible applications receives a grant, then we go back and make a second round of awards.
Thank you. Next question, a good one. What was the consideration of existing markets, such as Acme, Boom Market, Save a Lot, regarding the food desert designations? When we designated the food desert communities, I guess about 2 years ago now, there was a very intensive methodology that we used to determine that, such as demographics, poverty levels, SNAP participants, numerous, I believe there were some 30 to 40 different areas that we looked at. So indeed, in some food desert communities, the supermarkets were available, but they were not suitable, or perhaps not enough to meet the demands of the community. So they were or considered in that, certainly looking at all of the retailers in there, but we're part of a much broader methodology that if you really would like to dig deep, we do have that available on our website if you look at our Food Desert Relief page. And let's see, one more question. A person that already has the place to establish a fresh fruit, meat and food market and is ready to install shelves and stock to open in 6 months. Will the fund, if approved, be granted in that period of time to start operating? That would be, being that the program has a 6-week window, it will take us time to score applications. I am not sure, whether it would really depend on the timing, and I'm not sure if Rucha would like to add anything.
So any costs that have incurred before the grant agreement is signed cannot be counted towards this grant program. Our application window is open for 6 weeks. We, depending on how many applications we get, we are hoping that we can make grant awards announcements sometime towards the end of summer. So depending on how soon we can do that, you may be able to use the fundings, if approved, to receive the grant towards your project. But if the costs are incurred before the execution of the grant, you cannot count those expenses towards the program.
And this one from this company is an established 501c3, but new to Atlantic City. Can they apply? Being that one of the requirements is that you're serving Atlantic City in some way. If you are not, you likely would not be eligible, but if you are in some way, even if your 501c3 is located outside of the city, you could apply. And I think that makes
Please note that if you don't have an existing program in Atlantic City, you need to be in existing for at least 2 years, but you need to be currently serving Atlantic City. So if you're new to Atlantic City, in our application, you will see we ask for a location through which you are serving the residents of Atlantic City. I just want to be clear that the eligibility criteria is listed out, so you can look through that when you are ready to submit an application.
okay. Well, I think no open questions, so I think we'll conclude shortly. Again, on this page are several more ways to learn about the program. Please feel free to go there and to use this information. The application, please keep an eye out for when it will be available, and we'll certainly be sending out emails with that information. The recording of this webinar will be available within the next day or so on the website, as well as the presentation, which again, I suggest you keep handy because it will be helpful as you're going through the application to help you answer any questions. So thank you very much. And any closing remarks, Rucha?
No, I'll just say that, we are very excited to learn what comes our way from this first pilot approach that we've taken. Again, please note that, the application is not available online. We're not accepting applications as of right now. When we do have an application date, we will be reaching out to all participants that are here today via email. The date will also be available through our social media platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all of those places. We will be sure to announce it, out and loud, so all eligible entities can apply for this program. The last question we have is, yes, we will have this recording available on our website. Give us a day or two to kind of gather, download, and upload the webinar slides along with this recording on our website. I think somebody wanted us to go back to the last slide. I believe it's this.
That one, that's it.
If you have any questions regarding this grant program, you can always email us at foodsecuritygrants@njeda.gov. We have a very short window when we can respond to questions. Once the application opens up, we have very limited opportunity to respond to what questions come our way. We can certainly help with technical assistance, such as, if you're having a hard time downloading one of the attachments that's in the application, such as the work plan or the budget template or the budget narrative, we can help you with that. But we won't be able to discuss any questions around, is this a project that would score high? Is this the right way of answering any of the questions that are scored and are in the application? And with that, thank you again for your time this afternoon. And we look forward to getting some good responses to our grant program. And then that's about it. Thank you so much.